The Fearless Podcast, in a time of deceit, telling the truth, is a revolutionary act.
All right, Hakeem, Anwar, welcome back to the Fearless Podcast. How you doing?
I am doing good, man. I'm blessed to be breathing another day. How are you doing, TD?
Good, man. And I wanted to get you on because I saw the work you're doing regarding the AI data centers, and it's kind of front of mind for a lot of people right now. There's been a lot of pushback online, and I know that Aaron Brockovich has been making the rounds on some larger podcasts, kind of like spreading the word. So I thought it would be great to have you on because you've been doing a lot of research and have some valuable information and maybe some potential solutions. So maybe just to start off, Hakeem, man, maybe you could explain, like, I know you've been on the podcast, but we have a lot of new listeners. So maybe if you could just explain who you are, kind of like what you do, and why this area of AI data centers became an interest of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Hakeem. I'm the CEO of a conscious technology company called Above. That essentially means we make technology like phones and laptops that actually try to help you out. You use them, they do what they're told, and they're not spying behind your back. They're not sending any more data out than they absolutely have to function. And there's a very high degree of privacy and security. So we've been around for a few years, and a few years back, our customers started asking us to build an AI product. And so there was this due diligence that we had to do, kind of looking at the different AI solutions that were around. And then one thing really stuck out to me is like, oh, look at the size of these infrastructure projects. It's like, these are some of the largest construction projects in the world by the amount of investment that's being put in. And so that made me pause. And so I started researching this subject back in the fall of 2025. Now, just the past month, I released a 250-page report on AI data centers, and I tried to be very comprehensive. It's all handwritten, by the way. I didn't use AI to write it, unlike a lot of people nowadays, unfortunately. Which there's lots I can say about how that's negative on the creator as well. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the most pressing issues of our time. I know we're dealing with a poly crisis right now with the war and the energy crisis and the health, but if there's one place the buck stops at, that's the water. And I know you and your audience, you've got your hands in the dirt, you're doing the work. And I just really want people to think about what happens if their well goes dry. It could really mean the death of farming. So these AI data centers have the capacity to actually make our wells run dry. So it's something we need to talk about.
Yeah, and we're very familiar. There's a reservoir project that's been in the work for the last 20 or 30 years that directly impacts us locally, and we've been actively involved pushing back against that by online presence and also in-person meetups with local and state representatives. So this water issue is a much larger issue. We're starting to see a lot of people online that actually have land and farms where these data centers are encroaching on their property, or the power supply lines are, or just the overspraying of, the glyphosate and all this stuff to maintain these properties. And then you're getting a lot of different eminent domain things. So while many people, a lot of people won't worry about a problem kind of until it directly affects them or it's in their backyard. But the data center issue, besides the fact that the infrastructure is being built to track and trace and stack us and pack us and all that stuff, besides that, it's directly going to impact our cost of power, which is already on a very ephemeral supply as it is, and it's already underpowered. And now we're going to have these mega power consuming data centers that are just going to put an even greater stress on that and drive the price of our power up. And then the straw that broke the camel's back is the water, and so it's going to attack our power supply system. It's attacking our ability to drink fresh water. And I mean, civil liberties go out the window. I mean, if you can't breathe fresh air and drink clean water and
What
turn
else
the
is
lights
there?
on.
Really? And you never, we kind of took some of these freedoms that we had for granted. And I know you're in Texas and, we're starting to see the other side of the tide. I think just this past week, a few days ago, Texas Governor Abbott, he passed a pause on all new data center projects on condition of an audit. And the audit is ERCOT's responsibility to request more information from the data centers. But what they were finding was that 90% of all new requests for large amounts of power from the grid were coming directly from AI data centers. And so you've kind of got this interesting conundrum in Texas. It's really the center of the report I have on AIDataCenterMap.org. But Texas is really special because we have a really robust energy ecosystem, which is now getting taken over, just like many other regional grids. But we also have groundwater rights, like absolute dominion, which basically means it's very unique than other parts of the country. Basically means if you can pump water up to your property and you have it there on your property, it's legal. So, one thing that we have to discuss is that when you're talking about an aquifer, this is a body of underground water that can span thousands of square miles. So it's not just, the aquifer is not like, all right, I'm Texan reporting in, only Texans are going to use us, right? If Texans deplete the aquifer, that's going to impact Louisiana, Oklahoma, states in all directions, right? So that's kind of the danger here, is that there's these overlapping systems of regulation, and data centers are very strategically going to the poorest areas of the country.
One thing I do want to mention, if you are interested in any secure electronic products that Above offers, there'll be a link down below with a discount code. I will also put a link, Hakeem, to your report down below so everybody can access that, and you can see the map and the link to the map as well. That'll all be in the show notes.
Thank you for that. And this is really a public service, on behalf of our company. We created the map for free. The data on it is free. The report is free. And the only reason we even bring up our devices, which are private and open source, is because now we've gotten to the point where our phones and laptops have AI layers built into them. So I talk to a lot of people in our communities and they say, well, I'm super opposed to data centers. But then it's like, okay, but your Microsoft laptop is running Cortana and you're using AI queries without you even knowing it. And so just kind of through that, you're justifying the build out of these data centers. And a lot of these big tech companies know that's the only way they're going to push the demand. This is not consumer demand. So, now is a really good time to switch to a private device that's not pre-hacked. It can't install apps or remove them without your knowledge. It can't have these crazy updates where it just installs a layer of AI that can't be removed. So in the report, I think it's section 18, that you can read, where you can go through your phone and laptop and you can actually try to disable the AI pieces in there. So for those who have normal devices, they can do that. But for those who want to take full measures, they can get one of our Above phones or Above laptops.
The other interesting thing about these data centers, it was probably about 6 months ago, or maybe more. I think it was Tucker Carlson had on one of
Kevin
the
O'Leary.
Shark Tank. What's that?
Kevin O'Leary, the Canadian.
Yes. Yeah, Kevin O'Leary, and what gave me pause about the whole data center thing is O'Leary's on there, like talking about China, right? And like, this is the reason we have to do this is because of China. And the craziest thing about that is I think we have like, I don't know, 3,000 or 4,000, currently 3,000 or 4,000 data centers in America. And I believe China has like 300 or 400. You know, and obviously they're building data centers too, but China is already a track and trace society. They've already implemented this entire technocratical control grid in their society. They social credit score, they have the whole nine, and they're doing it on this infinitesimal infrastructure that's like, what, the 10th the size that ours is currently. And this whole like China excuse seems completely absurd to me. And you know, whenever you hear the boogeyman excuse, you always know that like that's a diversion because, you know, what are your thoughts on that, Hakeem?
Yeah, no, I think you've got a really good read on it. It's it's the oldest lie that we've always been told. Oh, look over there. We need this because we're about to be attacked. And it's really strange to see Kevin O'Leary, who is building a massive data center in Utah, one of the biggest in the country. I think it's like 10 gigawatts of power. Yeah, it uses the same amount of power as 10 million homes. And people like him, the CEOs of AI companies like Dario Modi, CEO of Anthropic, or Sam Altman, that are all kind of posturing that it's really important for us to stay ahead of China's frontier AI because of all these bad things that are happening in our own AI development. I mean, a few weeks ago, OpenAI, which it honestly seemed like a coordinated public relations stunt to me, they had one of their kind of the black box models that no one's really allowed to know of. It broke out of a test environment and then went and hacked a website. And they said, "Oh, look, what if China gets access to something like this?" Well, first of all, you didn't actually isolate it from the internet completely, did you? And second of all, yeah, like why should we hand over even more resources to people that are these companies that are sitting on billions of dollars and now centralizing our natural resources? Why should they come first? They haven't made a really good case for that. And then when you look at China and you realize that 80% of their AI data centers are actually empty, it really makes you think, wow, they're able to do their surveillance and their robotics and their self-driving cars and all of these things. And they actually don't have the consumer demand to use all of their data centers. So it really does seem like this is the biggest bubble of all time. But unfortunately, it's one where we are going to cover the cost of the bubble, which is a lot like the bank bailouts,
Yeah.
the airline bailouts.
Yeah.
It's all the same thing over again.
That's the fourth mitigating factor. You know, you have eminent domain, you have the power demand, you have the water demand. But the fourth factor is the market demand. This is all ultra speculative. There are going to be mega losers on this, like in all this like fake market. You know, the stock market is just a wealth transfer. I just had Barry Dyke on, and we were talking about how the top 1% own 53% of the market, and the top 10% own 93% of the market. The stock market is a shell game, and it's a wealth transfer. And one of the ways that's done is in this AI race, you'll have these 5 or 6 different players, you know, and there's going to be all of this capital raised and venture capital, and there will be winners and losers, and there'll probably be 1 or 2 winners, and there'll probably be like 4 or 5 losers. And it's just going to be a wealth transfer, and it's going to be done bureaucratically through all these government favors and tax waivers and all these different things. But people are going to lose. There's going to be deadhead AI data centers that are unoccupied and that from farmland that was taken from people. And you're going to have this huge infrastructure, and it'll totally be like a ghost town. I mean, this kind of stuff happens over and over again. And what's the long-term lasting impact of that on just a local country community and what have you, you know, and this is all collateral damage that'll absolutely happen just under this guise of, you know, we got to beat China.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that this is a very new phenomenon. I would say this didn't really start until 2022, but like you mentioned earlier, we've got 4,000 4,000 data centers in this country. And I just want to say before 2022, it was fine. I mean, we had thousands of data centers. They were running the internet. They were running services like Netflix, um, Facebook, what have you not. It's really this AI data centers that are the problem, and that's because they're running these massive clusters of compute. I mean, this is some of the most sophisticated technology out there, and as Sam Altman has said openly, they're trying to absorb the world's information and knowledge so they could rent it back out to you. So yes, I mean, we talked a lot about the power and water woes, which people are going to pay economically and already are. I think Bloomberg released a report showing that people who live next to clusters of data centers are already paying 3 times as much for their power bill. And if you look at the map on AIDataCenterMap.org, it's showing by 2030, we're going to build another 400 something AI hyperscale data centers. And if we do that, then all of the AI data centers combined will use over 40% of the US's current power supply. So that's kind of a baseline, right? Our power bills are roughly going to double. And I always think about it this way, you know, you're pretty savvy. So, you know, like we all know about the World Economic Forum and wanting us to move to 15-minute cities. And I think it's a part of spiritual law that no one's going to force you to move to the 15-minute city. But hey, won't it feel tempting if you're not getting water or power at the homestead? Won't you be like, maybe I should move into that city? So it's this, you know, this aspect of soft power that natural resources can have a say in.
And that's why it's important to be informed, right? And to stay ahead of it. We're watching in real time, like real pushback every day online with people that are going to town hall meetings and having different types of events to kind of push back. And they're having real success. And that's part of why it's just so important to be educated and know what's going on, know what's happening. After the fact, it's too late. I mean, once they build these things, and we haven't even talked about like all of the incidental issues between the power hum and the type of like EMF and sound and noise that these things emit, and what that does to even like the local wildlife, or you know, or if it's next to a ranch, a farm and ranch, the type of reporting that's coming out of what's happening, and then the maintenance and the weed management where they're blowing up everything with glyphosate and everything, and there's so much collateral damage that's happening. It's rather hard to imagine.
Feels very anti-life to me, TD. Yeah, and these health impacts, I mean, they're a very big deal. Like, it's very important for people to know the process that these data centers use, because once they're announced, well, once they've gotten the approval, they've been rezoned to industrial or gotten approval from the county, you're stuck where you are. Do you think anyone's going to buy a home or a small property next to a data center? No way. No way.
Yeah.
And it's a very sad situation for people who end up next to these things. So as an example, in Virginia, this is the most concentrated cluster of AI data centers in the entire world. They're using about 4,000 backup diesel generators. And they ran a study for the past 8 years, and they saw carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide, and dangerous particulate matter has doubled and tripled. And this is really alarming, because these diesel backup generators are just that, backup generators. They're not even running that much, right? They're just testing them. So if there was some sort of grid emergency scenario, like the grid could run out of power, which grids are already saying, they're preparing people for that. Well, then these backup generators would run 24/7 and generate 20 times as much as air pollution. So there's this stacking effect of these very dangerous emissions from these gas and diesel turbines that can cause strokes, dementia, diabetes, asthma. They can also cause reduced fertility and increased miscarriages. So, that's how deep this goes. Then there's also the aspect of the data centers increasing the temperature of the land around it by almost 4 degrees. And these combined together could create a public health crisis.
Yeah, and this is what's amazing. Like, whatever happened to this guy?
Because the interior of the Earth is extremely hot, several million degrees.
Several million
the
degrees.
crust of the Earth.
That's Al Gore, right? And like, where did, it's amazing with all the WEF stuff and all the tree huggers and stop the pollution and, stop, we need windmills and solar panels, right? And now all of a sudden, like that entire, we were all going to be underwater by 2024, right? Like the world was going to catastrophically end, the hockey stick, and all of that went away. And not only did it go away, but now we have these ultra pollutive, heavy resource, heavy electrical power. We need nuclear power plants now everywhere. It's, and my buddy Billy at Permapasture Farms, he calls it the United States of amnesia. And it's so true. Like people forget. And what happened? Where are all the green people? And you mentioned like the rezoning issue and what it's going to do to property value. We're fighting the same exact thing with this local reservoir issue, and it's going to consume like 200,000 acres, right? Well, everybody that's in that zone, because of this ongoing 30 or 40-year battle, nobody wants to buy the property. Nobody wants to buy the property in that 200,000 acre. Well, so it's about 20,000.
Are you telling me they're wanting to take some land, 20,000 acres, and use it as like a holding reservoir for water for better water management?
Dallas wants to build a reserve out here, and it's roughly 20 to 60,000 acres, right? But in order to offset the 60,000 acres, they're really going to take 200,000 acres, because there's all of the green grift is totally involved in that. And basically they're going to build a lake so that everybody in Dallas can have more water. They're going to take all the land. And once they have this lake, they're going to sell lakefront property. Meanwhile, the farmers that have been farming out here for like multi-generational cow farmers and hay farmers, they got to give up their land for nothing. They can't leverage and sell it right now because this thing is zoned. Everybody is aware that potentially this whole reservoir thing could get approved and the land becomes worthless, So even if the reservoir pays the current market value, it's kind of irrelevant, and these people technically can't even move if they wanted to.
Right. And I mean, this is land that's been in their family for generations. So it's not about the money. It's a matter of principle. And, I mean, this is bad on all fronts. And so I'm with these farmers and ranchers. And I think that the only successes that I've seen in the United States is when communities are really banding together around this issue. And that is perhaps the biggest opportunity amidst all of this, is the ability to work with people outside our direct circles. Because I mean, to be fair, now it's more on the radar of the mainstream. But some towns in Texas, like San Marcos, it seemed to be the left-leaning people that banded together to stop the polluting of the rivers and the streams. And now we see the total picture. And so for once, I hope that this issue can get both sides to put aside their differences, and whatever the reason is, whether you're worried about the surveillance or the health risks or the ecological harms, or simply people's individual liberty and maintaining the strength of our farmers in this country, that we can work together and start to catch these things early. So in the section of the report on solutions, it actually goes through the exact legal process from how data centers will pick out what sites, like you can kind of predict where a data center might build. There's certain things it needs to have, to how it gets rezoned and what it needs. So if they were not going to advertise that they're coming to your town, you have to be super embedded in the local county commissioner's office or the city council to see what they're doing. So if you do manage to catch them early, this is what San Marcos did. They brought 100 people out to the zoning hearing, and they literally just let them have it. They let the city council have it, and they talked till 3 a.m. and they just let them become aware that, hey, they're standing up for their town. So if we can do that across the country, we might not win every part of the country, but hey, we're going to make it known that we're not going quietly.
I mean, the hazards are so ubiquitous, like you were saying. That's such a great point. The hazards are so ubiquitous, whether you're more concerned about privacy and being left alone, or whether you're concerned about having clean water or fresh food, like whether valuable farmland and ranch land is going to be converted into like nothing, this anti-productive, anti-life kind of it should be a very ubiquitous topic that should unite people regardless of their political leanings, where people can work together and try to resist what's going to be imposed on them.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming for all of us. And I like to say that this is kind of the final frontier. If you don't have water, what can you really have? What can you grow? What's the value of your land? If you don't have power, what can you do on your land? So I will say we're early to this conversation. I'm very proud of the fact that so many people are waking up to this, because this is not working in their favor. These are massive projects. There are all these supply chain issues, and they've only got a fraction of the way to building all of the power capacity that they have planned. But what they have planned for 2030, like I mentioned, is that 200 gigawatts number. They've got these gigascaler sites that I like to call, because they're using the equivalent amount of power as millions and millions of homes. There's many in northern Texas, which I'm sure you're aware of. There's some around the country, and these are the projects that we need to shut down. And for some people, that's going to be showing up at the local level. For other people, that's going to be opting out of AI completely and using private devices. So whatever your reason is to show up, it's time to show up.
I think Elon Musk, his new data centers down in College Station, and it's projected to be, I think, the largest building in the world. And I think that's supposed to be slated for College Station.
Wow. This is one that's going to get added to the map if someone hasn't requested it already. Yeah, the Terafab plant. So they're going to build semiconductors there, because we're having trouble building the AI chips. So I guess that's what they're doing. Not exactly a data center, but yeah, this thing is absolutely huge. So, I mean, I have some friends in Austin, and they told me about how Elon Musk basically just bought all the land around Austin. So looks like it's coming to other cities in Texas.
Yeah. And I guess supposedly that's why they do need all this water, is because of these mega processors, right? They run so hot. Like they run I think it said that they're like equivalent to the temperature of the surface of the sun or something. Like it's so amazing how so much of this is like hard to like wrap your head around. But apparently that's why they need so much water, is because these NVIDIA processors run that hot.
Yeah, that they get at full load, they get so hot, they're within one order of magnitude. So yeah, they're comparable to the surface of the sun in a chip, that's like
Yeah.
this size or whatever. It's in a fridge. It's in a box the size of the fridge, and it has a continuous feed of water that is going into it, heating up, and then just being blown out, cooled off, and the hot air is blown out in the atmosphere. So this is why it's getting so hot around these things. And yeah, I mean, this Terafab plant, they want to build more of these AI chips for his self-driving cars, but also they're having trouble sourcing all the AI chips they need for their planes, the robots. So yeah, it's all coming. And one thing that I am proud of is we just launched this contribution feature. So on the map, if like
I
TD,
saw that. It's like interactive, right? Like it's open source, so you can like interact with it and let it know. You can tag your own location, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you could go on the map and, this is loading some points here, but we built a system that now people can actually add their own data centers on the map. So, you can even add the one you were telling me about here, the Terafab plant in College Station. So you could go through and there are some fields you need to fill out, but, you can get all this information from a single news article. So what's important for us is just to know when this thing is planned to go live and how much power it's using. And once you actually have the power, there's so much that we can tell. Let's go into the Dallas area because we've been talking about it. Once you have the power, our map can make calculations of how much water it plans to use and how much power it plans to use. So you can actually get a real-time look at, what's happening in your corner of the world and use it to make better decisions about where to move or, your family or friends. And so, yeah, it's a good tool just to get visibility into that. If you click on one of these black triangles, those are the hyperscalers, then you can click on this eye too. It'll give you essentially a methodology for how we go about getting to this number, which I don't think anyone has done before, at least not publicly, given people a formula that they can use to estimate it.
I mean, I think it says a lot about your company, Hakeem, as far as to put in all the time and the effort to generate this kind of reporting, to leave it open source, that it can be a collaborative effort. It just says a lot about why Above is doing what it's doing and, who's doing it. And it speaks volumes. And I think it's really awesome. And I'll make sure that all these links are down below so that folks can access this stuff and we can collaborate on it. And if we can all work on it together, obviously it'll be that much more powerful.
Well, TD, I'm, honored to be working with folks like you, and it's going to take all of us. I always say that if there's about $6 billion companies that own the world, then it's going to take millions of mom and pop shops and family homesteads and tiny startups that all work together and just are like, all right, we don't need any of y'all anymore. So, we're all doing our piece.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole concept of parallel community, parallel society. At some point, another ubiquitous topic would be like the Federal Reserve, right? And you would think that everybody could align on the fact that we shouldn't outsource our money printing, since constitutionally, that should have never been outsourced. And all that has created is every world war and the current war we're in. And, you'd think that we could align on that, and as far as a society. And since apparently we can't, the solutions are parallel, right? So we practice private family banking. So we're attempting through the accumulation of capital to, replace the banks and all the stuff that they do, and doing that privately. Above Phone, is peer-to-peer and open source, right? So that way we can sidestep it. All these solutions, that is personal responsibility, education, peer-to-peer, creating parallel networks where we can work together outside of the normal channels because of the propaganda and because of social media and social pressures and lobbying groups, right? And foreign countries and all the stuff that we have to work around. This is why parallel is so important. And so what you're doing as a company is incredibly important. And then what you're doing on this end regarding data centers and reporting and the access to the information is just really awesome. It's an incredible resource. At a minimum, everybody should at least check out one, read the report. It's very concise, very well done. And then two, check out the maps, and just out of curiosity to see what's in your area or what might be coming to your area. It's an incredible resource at a minimum.
Thank you for that. And I just forgot what I was going to say. I was just going to say that, this is why they call it the Fearless Podcast. Like it's not like we don't have the technology. It's not like we don't have these ideas, like family banking. Like I love that you said that. And there's so much I want to ask, maybe talk to you offline about it. But yeah, it's like these systems, they're not new. Like this is our birthright. They've been around. And that's what I think the fearless in my mind is like, we have the technology, we have the ideas, and it's just about being courageous to implement them. So maybe I hope this map inspires people and contact us through the site if you have any questions, and we'd be happy to help. And if you're interested in learning more about the Above Phone 2, please check, or the webinars for example, you can go to learn.abovephone.com, and we actually have a webinar that we did that goes through the report. If you like listening to the update,
Great.
you can see it
That's
that
awesome.
way. And we also have a whole series about our solutions at Above, our privacy phone and laptop and how it protects you and all that kind of stuff. So definitely check that out. It's good stuff.
Well, that's the thing about information. A lot of people have monetized the fear. There's lots of stuff, and you talk about these data centers, and it starts to sound crazy, and it starts to sound kind of scary, right? And there's a lot of people that have monetized that, especially on social media, and they do it under the guise of just providing information. But if all you're doing is providing negative information with no solutions, then you are the problem. Like you're just as much of the problem as the real problems are if you're just trying to monetize fear. But if you have solutions and you're offering solutions, there's a lot of things that we cannot control. But at a minimum, right, if we control the things that we can control through different products that are available, capitalism is you have to bring solutions to the market. Real capitalism is bringing an offer to the market, bringing value. And when you can do that, enough people will recognize that so that you can earn an honest living and make money. And that's really what capitalism is. And that's kind of been lost. And me and Barry were talking about crony capitalism and stuff, and it's purposely given capitalism a bad name so that the socialist communists can take over, right? Because the evil capitalism has it's evil capitalism that is building these AI data centers to steal all the money, to steal all the water and pollute the soil and all this stuff.
It's been bastardized. Our version of capitalism. It's really the worst elements of capitalism, the worst elements of socialism thrown together. Like a free market, we would never have any of these problems. So
yeah, so perfectly well said. I mean, that is absolutely correct. And man, Akeem, this has been great. I always love having you on. And maybe we could sync up offline. And I will have all the links down below. I'll have the link to the Above Phone and their website. I'll have a link to the report. And I also have a link to the data center, AI data center map.org, AI data center map.org. I'll have a link to all that stuff down below. And Man, this has been awesome, Hakeem. I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on. Any parting words, any last words, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say out of my heart, I think that this is one thing. I try not to get too emotional about this, but I think the planet is I think the planet is trying to speak to us, and I think that we've become so disconnected from our food and the earth in general. We forget how much she takes care of us, and you know, because we don't know how when I started this whole thing, I didn't even know how the water systems worked, and it turns out it's this beautiful, beautiful system that water is sitting here for millions of years, just waiting for you to drink it. And there's all this way that life is sustained, and it's just very empowering to know that we're God is taking care of us. The planet is here to take care of all living things, and vice versa. We must learn how to take care of the planet because those in power cannot be trusted to. So it's a responsibility, and you know, it's one that I'm thankful that we get to be the ones showing people how to do it. Everyone listening to this right now, they're watching because they're ahead of the game. You know, we're getting to set the dominant wave of the future and how we work with this planet. So I don't take that lightly, and yeah, I'm just really grateful to be here. It's always a pleasure, and thanks for everyone who's been listening.
All right, y'all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.